of the dirty game of that. A lot of people are not who they claim they are. The progress, y'all got to show the process binds them to your son when they even make it to the NFL. You didn't know that, did you? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome to the Daddyball show, man. I know y'all excited, man. It's been a crazy weekend. College football is officially here. Thank you, Jesus. We finally made it, y'all. Man, without further ado, man, I just want to make sure everybody know, man, Daddyball show is a platform to provide insight, education, and all the different ups and ends of how to get your kid to the next level. So I just want to make sure everybody aware, man, we got a lot of surprises. We got a lot of guests that's going to be coming our way. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get rolling. We've been in a position lately, man, where a lot of people want to understand, how did I help get my son to the next level? How was I able to kind of streamline the ins and outs of getting recruiting established for Travis? And a lot of people think that it's based around a few things. Well, you got to go to this high school. He got to have this coach. He got to be this size. He got to be this. It is a lot of intricate steps to that. But I'm going to get right into how fundamental and how important it is to make sure you build resources, network, and just really understand who you need to communicate with from 7th grade, like all the way up to pretty much his senior year. So when I talk about these things, I want people to understand that this is from a perspective as a parent, right? So you're going to hear people talking about coaches. We're going to hear people talking about it from the lens of, this angle, that angle. Let me give you a real breakdown on how this works and how things would go if you are in a situation where your kid is in middle school, right? For example, my son, right? We're going to just a regular middle school. We're trying to get things rolling. You got a kid that's playing multiple sports, but you're just playing middle school ball. So you're trying to figure out what high school your kid is going to go to, or you already know what zone he's going to be going to and how y'all going to get things rolled through. With Travis's situation, it's very unique, right? Because Travis was going to school in the Cobb County area that didn't really have a strong football program. Out of respect of the school, I'm not going to name them, but, obviously I knew that I had to have a game plan on what high school Travis was going to go to, whether it was South Atlanta, whether it was Gwinnett, whether it was Cobb. I had to really figure that out. And obviously, as, a parent, you got to make sure you're strategic with that. So I want to make sure people are aware. You got to be strategic with where your child is going to go to school at. I know it's hard because sometimes based on rules and, different laws and what have you, you got to kind of just roll the dice. But you got to sacrifice something. Whether you got to move, you got to, get an apartment somewhere, it's a sacrifice, right? So understand that. Look at the history of how these athletes have been produced and how they've been making it in those particular programs. Look at the success records, look at the actual accolades that some of these programs have had, and use that as an influence for your son to get to where they need to go, right? But I want to make sure people understand the goal of this conversation today. And it's not always just about the high school. It's more strategic beyond that. When Travis was going into 8th grade, we were fortunate to be a part of this FBU tryout, right? FBU stands for Football University. Shout out to Eric Richards and all the leaders that are behind that program. This is a very strong lineage of athletes that have been a part of that program, right? And I say program, I say it's pretty much a all-star league where you get through with your middle school, high school, or middle school team, and then you're selected through a tryout to play for this program where you're able to travel down to Naples if you win your region, and then you can go nationally, right? Bryce Young, Nick Chubb, who else? Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, Juju Lewis. I'm naming just a small few of kids that have been a part of this FBU piece. Why am I talking about FBU, right? The reason why I'm talking about that is because that was an influence behind a lot of how Travis's recruiting ended up expanding and being built. We didn't rely on the high school. We didn't even know where he was going to go yet. We just knew that if he was able to be around elite talent in conjunction with 7-on-7, which I'll get to later, it would allow him to start understanding how the recruiting circuits as well as the recruiters can start building your profiles. You understand what I'm saying? So let's just talk about it. From 8th grade going into his post 8th grade year, we were fortunate enough to play for the FBU team and compete against future teammates such as Justin Baker, David Sanders. See the irony of that, right? We never knew in 8th grade at 13, 14 years old, he would end up being teammates with these guys later on. That's the beauty of it. You put your kids in those positions to compete and go against elite players. All right? So we obviously had an opportunity to compete and play, and we started noticing other camp invites were coming, right? Under Armour for the juniors, right? For the younger kids, which are middle school kids. The regional FBU camp. Here's where things really, expanded for Travis. And people who are going to hear me that may know me know that I've sent this information to them as well. I'm giving a lot of praise to this group of FBU because they helped this substantially. There was a regional camp in Atlanta where Travis was, able to compete. It was free for everybody. All right. You only had to pay to basically participate, but it was free to get your shirt, apparel, and stuff like that. Everything else is accommodated. So just understand, while you're depending on going to a high school, you still got to put your leg work in to get him into camps to get the exposure, which is what I did. So the camp was at Landmark Christian here down in South Atlanta. And, we just went out there to kind of compete. I told Travis, I said, look, you were able to compete with the FBU League. Now you at an exposure camp. You got writers here. I know you about to go to 9th grade in another 7-8 months, but I want you to be a dog out there, bro. I need you to, don't put no bad body language out there. Every drill, you need to be the front in line. You need to have enthusiastic, tempo. I'm giving him all the tricks and trades on making sure he's being shown. As a receiver, it's very important you are aggressive. You're in front of the line. And this is not just for, receivers. This is for any position. I knew it was time for him to do what he had to do. So long story short, he did a great job at the camp. He balled out, right? I didn't see many kids in that South Atlanta area at that camp, but a lot of kids from Gwinnett and other areas were. So I was like, okay, well, that says something here. After the performance he made and that he did, he was the MVP of the middle school FBU regional camp. So what that means is if you're the MVP of that regional camp for FBU, you will be invited to the Top Gun camp down in Naples, Florida. I know this is unknown and unbeknownst to a lot of y'all, but that's a big deal because you're basically following the alumni and lineage of other guys who were also invited to those Top Gun camps as well. So that was the sacrifice. You put your money out there to get to the camp, you perform like you're supposed to, and now you're going to another level to a Top Gun camp. Why is this important to us? That was important to us because that transitioned Travis to be invited on a larger scale nationally now. So now he's competing against guys that he's going to be playing against future in the SEC one day. The only backdraw or the only issue I had at that time was what high school he was going to go to. So he got the ins and outs. He balled out. And I'm like, damn, man, where we going to go to school at, bro? I'm just thinking, I'm like, okay, well, I'm on this side of town, but I'm not quite in that zone. By the grace of God, I was able to figure it out. And instead of going up to Gwinnett, shout out to all the Gwinnett schools with all the funding and all the resources, I rolled the dice, man. I took him to Westlake. Y'all know Westlake. If you don't know Westlake, look them up. Cam Newton, Pac-Man Jones, AJ Terrell. Man, I can name a whole bunch of other guys that's in the NFL or that were legends. But they didn't really produce a lot of receivers. The influence behind the Westlake situation was another kid or basically multiple kids that were also going to be going there as well. So, Top Chef Steph, which is a trainer in Atlanta. Shout out to Steph, bro. We love you, dog, for all the training you did. He was the, wide receiver coach there, and I felt that it would be a good connection for him to go to that school. So the influence was him training kids like JB, okay? Kids like Travis and a few other kids that were ended up being very successful as well. I felt that would be a good opportunity. He enrolls in Westlake. I'm thinking about how I can get more exposure for him though. So I'm connecting the dots, I'm communicating with people, and we get the big news. Travis could not play his freshman year. What you mean? Well, he had an issue from a health perspective. So Travis had a liver disease that we did not know about, just based off a random blood drawing that shown that he had elevated enzymes in his liver. So to be cautious and to try to really monitor his health, which we didn't see anything wrong with him, the doctors felt that they needed to really monitor that before he could play again. He couldn't play his freshman year. I know he's a freshman. I know. But it's his freshman year. He's already kind of the next man up behind, Honeycomb and all these other guys that play there that are pretty much on the cusp of making it to the NFL now. And he's crushed. You know what I'm saying? And this was a big, big turning point for us because we had to figure out how we were going to keep the momentum going in spite of him not being able to play until the doctors gave him the thumbs up. So I had to figure it out. I'm thinking to myself like, God, what do I do, man? My son, we don't know if he's going to lose his liver. We don't know what's going on. He got to take this treatment. So we got cleared for him to play basketball that year. But the doctor said, hey, he's looking good. We think he can play. We'll know he can play next year. But since the year has already transpired going into November and December, let's just let him sit out. He sat out his freshman year at Westlake. I wasn't stopping though. I kept moving. I didn't stop. I kept moving. I kept trying to create some type of exposure for him. What the hell did I do? Do you know that FBU camp that I went to and I had him go to, where he won the MVP through the middle school, I found the VP, the owner, the directors of the FBU camp, and I reached out to them on LinkedIn. I know you're asking, like, why would you reach out to them on LinkedIn? Because, for one, there was a FBU All-American Bowl for the ninth graders that was down in Naples, Florida. All the top guys were going to be there. All the top guys. Former player of the years, you name it. And I noticed that because he had connections with being the MVP, I thought it would be a good idea to reach out to the people that's making the decisions. He wasn't invited, but I made a way to create some communication and network with that individual or individuals through, the FBU lineage, right? So Eric Richards is over the FBU piece. There's a lot of playmakers, a lot of big names, but this guy, shout out to Eric Richards, is one of the people that is part of the selection committee, okay? I reached out to that dude on LinkedIn. I sent him an email. I don't know how I found him. And I mentioned him, Travis, and I mentioned his teammate, Juan Gatson. Shout out to Juan. Shout out to the Gatson family. I mentioned him because I knew that Juan was already a big-time playmaker. I knew he was one of the top offensive linemen. He would be a future NFL player one day. So that raised the attention of the resources at FBU, and they were asking me if I can send them film of Travis. Unfortunately, I didn't have film because Travis didn't play his ninth grade year. But you know what I had? I had footage of the camps. I had footage of the trainings. I had footage of all of the metrics that Travis can possess in ninth grade. So that's another thing I want to kind of level set on real quick before I finish my story. Don't ever be hesitant to pull your phone out and capture footage. Everywhere your son go, you need to be recording him. I know they don't like the camera up on him. Mom, come on now, Dad. But y'all got to record, man. Y'all have to show the progress. Y'all got to show the process from 5th grade, 6th grade, and on. All that footage becomes your story. Remember that. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I created a reel and I sent that over to Eric Richards and his staff, and they invited him. They invited him to the FBU All-American Bowl. Like, that's a big deal. I want y'all to understand how important that was for Travis, because even though he did not play his ninth grade year at Westlake, he was a part of the Adidas FBU All-American Bowl, playing in Naples, Florida, playing against Winston Watkins, Justin Baker. I can name so many big-time players that are a part of 2025 right now. And in full circle, nobody from the Atlanta South area, or even let alone within our metro area, was playing for the FBU All-American Bowl. Do you get what I'm saying, though? Like, let's think about that. If you got kids that's better than Travis or better than your son playing high school football, and they're not playing in a part of a televised FBU All-American Bowl, who's going to get more exposure? Whose name is going to get put on 247, on 3, Rivals, and so forth? I guarantee you, playing in those programs or playing a part of that actual experience gave Travis a little more leverage than playing his 9th grade year. But that gives you the message. That's the message behind what I'm trying to emphasize to y'all. I found a way to sacrifice my time, the cusp of Christmas, to try to figure out a way to get him to the FBU All-American Bowl. So what's your story? Like, what are you going to do to help get your son to the next level? You going to put your hands and put all your reliance on the high school? Because, yeah, I get it. Buford's going to produce athletes no matter what. Grayson's going to do it. Carrollton's going to do it. Milton's going to do it. Shout out to all those great programs. But you cannot solely rely on those programs to help your son get to the next level. Okay? So I took an example that I put into Travis, and it ended up spawning into something that created a plethora of other opportunities. After a successful performance down in Naples at the FBU All-American Bowl, being one of the top performers, Travis was invited to the National Combine for the Army All-American Bowl. So there's a connection to that. He had to wait a year, but he was able to build up more skill, more experience by going to 7-on-7, playing with prestigious teams and elite players. But then after your sophomore year, that winter, you're invited to a combine. I want y'all to understand there's some very, intricate steps around that time frame, right? You not only are going to be recruited based upon the high school, but you're also having to put yourself in a larger scale, being a part of camps where you can compete against other players. So going to the combine his sophomore year, he was able to get a 247 top combine performer award. So he's competing against all the kids. I'm sorry if I'm missing any names, guys, but it was so many kids out there. We flew all the way to San Antonio right after his birthday. And we sitting there, and I'm like, man, you at the Alamo Dome, bro. Maybe one day you might be an All-American. You never know. But if you're going to do this camp, bro, like I told you 2 years ago when you was at the FBU regional camp, this is a national scale now. You got 247 riders. You have Chad Simmons at on 3. You have Steve Whitfong. These are guys that when they start talking about you, get ready for your profile to get built. All right? So after that performance at the combine, he was able to finally get a profile for 247. What does that mean? I always tell y'all, when it's something that you don't know, I always say, what does that mean? When you get a profile for your son or for your child, that means that you are not going to have any stars yet. Most of the time, when you get your 247, that means they're ready to put them up, but you got to keep putting in the work. Travis finally got his 247 profile after that combine. I can show y'all a clip where, we was just excited for him to get written about. No stars. Sophomore year, I'll get into that later. But I'm talking about outside of the high school. You get what I'm saying? I ain't talking about what he did his sophomore year. I'm talking about what else did he do to help stimulate his recruiting. One other thing I want to tell y'all about that. Going into the spring, after his football season of his sophomore year, he got his first offer. He got his first offer from Utah. Utah. We was so amped, bro. Like, I'm talking about Utah, dog. Like, we didn't give a damn if it was anybody. It could have been Kennesaw State. But you got your first offer from Utah. Didn't have but 3 catches his sophomore year. got his first offer from Utah. You know what the coach told him? Man, we saw you somewhere in San Antonio, man. I think you was at his combine, and we saw some routes, and we saw your tempo, your speed, your skill, your catch radius. We know you ain't got a lot of experience yet in your sophomore year, but we know as your time is coming, we love for you to be a part of Utah. You get what I'm saying? All that shit that he did his sophomore year didn't matter until he went to San Antonio to a camp no one even had any eyes on but writers, recruiters, and the people that had some type of knowledge about what FBU was. FBU is tied to the combine. So without that camp, they might have seen him. They would have been like, yeah, man, who's this kid? But the fact that he got his first offer because of going to that combine says a lot about what you need to do. You got to do your research. You got to almost be a nerd with this shit, bro. You got to be like driven to figure out what camps to go to, put the money to the side. You know what I'm saying? Hey, what's this camp called? What's this camp? You just got to do that. I want all my people to understand there's nothing wrong with asking questions, particularly our people. We have too much ego and pride sometimes where we don't want to open our mouths to try to create some type of, communication. But that's another day for another story. I want y'all to understand how that led to him getting more offers. Utah led to Duke. Duke led to Missouri. Missouri led to Texas A&M. The list goes on. Junior year, it's all yours now. You done had 2 coaches change at Westlake. Now it's your team. First game, North Cobb, turned up, 5 receptions, 180 yards. I told him he finally got the monkey off his back. See, when you finally create that storyline and you put the work in, no matter what obstacles get your way, you know that the high school is just the icing. It's icing on the cake. But you got to put your work in to make sure it's not just about the high school performance. It's about what you're doing to build more of your recruiting process as well. So, junior year in full throttle, man. The boy finally got the monkey off his back, man. I'm just so happy for him. Compared to his sophomore year where he only had 3 catches. 3 catches now. You know what I'm saying? It was like a complete 180 because at the end of the day, that really was his first high school year of playing ball. So there was a mental, but it was also an accountability. We ain't pointing the fingers at the coaches. I knew he was, one of the best players, but I was not blaming the coaches for that. I said, Trav, you got to be ready, bro. I always emphasize when preparation meet opportunity, that's when you perform. You know what I'm saying? So it just felt good, man, to get that monkey off his back, bro. When he finally got that first touchdown and went for 180. Now the offers is coming in. Can you believe in the process of getting these offers, we got the offer from Georgia. And the crazy thing is about that offer, and I mentioned Georgia because Georgia is the prestigious program, right? He didn't get that offer because they saw him playing and balling out of control. He got that offer from Coach B-Mac, shout out to B-Mac, because he performed at one of their camps that I took him to. We went to an old regular prospect camp. I said, bro, it's your time. Because they were already looking at him because they saw his frame when he was in the 8th and 9th grade. And I said, let's just go, man. You know what I'm saying? I know you're busy with 7-on-7. I know you're busy. I know a lot going on. And I ain't trying to go back and forth, but I'm just letting you know, this is how so much shit was going on, man. He didn't play very well the sophomore year. He got the monkey off his back the first part of the junior year. But in the between time frame, I just took him to Georgia. I took him to Tennessee. I took him to Bama. But Georgia was the biggest offer he ever got at that time. That boy had never, and I know I'm going a little behind, but I'm just letting you know, he never had a snap yet his junior year. And Coach Kirby Smart and B-Mac and the whole staff pulled him to the side and offered him. You get what I'm saying? Who do that? And that just shows how strong of a recruiting program they were at the time. They saw the potential in him. That boy had not even had a reception yet his junior year. But we'll get to that too. Because as I said before, the monkey who got off his back, he was able to perform at a high level his junior year, and he was just going crazy, bro. They was putting him in different packages. They put him in the X. They put him in the Z. They put him in the Y. He had some slot moves. He was doing it all. You know what I'm saying? I was a little concerned because I know we didn't have the experience at quarterback, but not to get specific around it, you know, Sean was his quarterback. He did a hell of a job. He was a defensive back turned into a quarterback. You know, both of them boys ended up being all region that year as juniors. Bama coming, Ohio State coming. All these big time Power 4 schools is coming left and right. So that's when we started understanding how intricate it was, to not only create the success of high school performance, but keep the momentum going with 7-on-7. Oh yeah, now we're talking 7-on-7 shit. We talked about the camps. We talked about 247. You looking like, what's 247? It's 247 is one of the top recruiting service, if not the top recruiting service in the country. When your son gets a profile for them, be prepared for writers to start looking for everything they post. Writers start getting tagged. Writers starting to understand who's recruiting them and so forth. The same goes into effect for On3 and Rivals. Now Rivals and On3 are one. So these recruiting services are going to write about your son if they start to get offers. But you got to start understanding the steps you need to take to communicate with these guys. As I said to you before, networking, communicating, building a Twitter. I ain't even mentioned that. So you got all this going on, right? You got the camps that are regional. You got information about, okay, what does this really matter? Is this a money grab? No, you take them to those camps. All right. You keep the training going while you take them to those camps. You let high school do their thing. Right. Then you put yourself in a position where you can start getting recruiting going also with 7-on-7 teams. 7-on-7 became a big part of his life. All right. For those who don't know, if you're a receiver and a quarterback and a defensive back, that is a AAU for football, if you will. All right. Chris Henry Jr., Juju, Luke Nickel, who else, man? CJ Wiley, you know what I'm saying? I can name so many kids, bro. I'm bad with names, but I know that most of those kids on his team were 5 stars and 4 stars. And last but not least, playing under a program like C1N and Hustling. C1N is under Cam Newton's program. He has a great top-tier elite 7-on-7 team. He started doing that at an early age, but then also, too, Tony Ballard. Tony Ballard was the first guy that Travis was coached under for 7-on-7. 2 top-tier programs in the Atlanta area. So you're going to stay very, very locked in with these type of groups so you can get recruited. When you play for these type of teams as a receiver, quarterback, defensive back, that's how you get it. Everybody's not a receiver. Some may be linemen, some may be position players. But I want y'all to understand you have to ask the questions to understand what's going to help recruiting. Coaches are not going to like y'all sometimes going to these camps without them, being a part of it. You got to do what you got to do, bro. You got to do what you got to do. I don't give a fuck what nobody say. Do what you got to do for yours. Because guess what? As I was told not to do what I had to do, the damn coach left. How many of y'all been in a situation where you were told not to do something for your kid, and lo and behold, the person that told you no longer even there? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point? You got to put your trust in what you think is the best interest for your child. Be rational, but you got to do that first. All right? So now that we in a position where these, offers are coming left and right, he got the film. Now we got to start doing our visits. And I ain't talking about this game visits. Game visits is one thing. You talking about like real visits where you're shaking hands with the head coach. All right. That's how we started building a rapport and a relationship with the Kirbys, with the Coach Heupels, with the Nick Sabans, you know what I'm saying, with the Ryan Days, with the Lane Kiffins. It was a surreal moment to be able to go from 3 catches one year to getting 3 offers a day. You know what I'm saying? That shit is unreal, bro. You can't put it into words. It all was boiled around not depending just solely on my thoughts of my son's high school. I said, you know what? Fuck it, man. I'm gonna put it into my hands. Not trying to overthrow or overshadow the high school. I did it a way where it would help him more than it would hurt him. All right. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware of the steps and the process to build the recruiting. I'm going to provide y'all information for all those recruiting services. I'm going to tell y'all what y'all need to do to make sure your sons have Twitter. Your Twitter account is kind of like your rest haven, if you will, for your son's recruiting. Travis may have got his first offer from Utah, but the bulk of his offers came directly through Twitter. They're going to message him through Twitter. They're going to come up to the school, but most of the time they're going to start following him on Twitter. So don't be the type of parent where you feel like your kid is going to be in control of his Twitter. Because most of the time they may love Instagram and TikTok, but a lot of these kids do not like Twitter. Twitter is not really a high school type of thing. It's not sexy for them. You know what I'm saying? You got to do that. You better have somebody controlling his Twitter, or you better make sure he's fully engaged in that. Because in the process of him getting the offers and getting recruited, how you communicating? How you networking? When he going to a 7-on-7 camp or to a position camp at, University of Kentucky, as an example, who you tagging? You got to tag the right people so they can know about it, right? Every camp I took him to, we tagged everybody that we thought needed to know. When he performed well, they wrote about it. What does that do? You go from what I said before, getting that 247 profile, that on-3 profile. Man, what's going on? Man, this dude just had 200 yards against Coker County. Why he ain't got no stars? Performed so well, put together a stellar performance against Coker County, one of the top teams in the country. Now you got Chad Simmons. Now you got all these other riders like, man, crazy performance by the Smith of Westlake High School. We look online, he got that fucking 4-star. That boy went from no stars his junior year to by the cusp in the middle to the end of his junior year, every recruiting service gave him 4 stars. I don't want to hear nobody telling me stars don't matter, because I'm sorry, it don't matter when he get to college, but it do. That shit matter. You get more attention, you get more accolades, you get more expectation, you get more value for your NIL. And if you a dog, you a fucking dog. If you a dog, you a 4-star, you a 5-star. Because everybody ain't who they claim to be. So if you are who you are, when you go to these top camps and go against them one-on-one sessions and compete, you'll show who you are. But we looking at it from a trajectory of, damn, I ain't got no stars, Dad. What's going on? I said, bro, chill. They coming. Hold on. Don't focus on the stars. Don't compare yourself to him. Don't compare yourself to him. Don't compare yourself. Focus on your story. Your story is your story. Don't get caught up with trying to compete with your friends. You might be better than them. They just got a little leg up in front of you right now. That's anybody. I'm on the highway yesterday. These motherfuckers around me left and right in front of me. But I might get to the destination before them. That's life, bro. Focus on your grind and your process that you need to have. So when that 4-star hit, oh shit, we really busting now. Nick Saban then retired. Who came up to the school right after that? Coach DeBoer, Coach Shepard, the whole fucking offensive staff. Granted, you had Juan Gatson, top offensive lineman there, but they wanted to see Trav too. When you got those opportunities in front of you, you got to understand that your relationships are very key and important moving forward. And you got to focus on the people that are around that can help open those doors. I can't tell you how many times I've communicated with guys that needed a camp invite and we couldn't even get it. It's a kid right now looking on this podcast right now that's waiting to get an invite from the Under Armour All-American game or Under Armour All-American camp. But they don't know nobody. But you can't expect to have your camp invites if you haven't built relationships since that time frame. Everybody don't have a mom and dad that knows how to get in and out and get into those doors. But you got to listen to the things I'm trying to emphasize so you can kind of build your knowledge and build your relationships from there. So we're looking at it all from this landscape. Senior year comes up. He's the top wide receiver in the state of Georgia. Just like that. Senior year, top wide receiver in the state of Georgia based on these services, right? All because of the steps that were taken outside of just the performance at his high school. All right? I want to make sure y'all understand this real quick. The more you put the work in, the more you perform at these games and against these top tier teams, the more your opportunities are going to open up for you to be able to take visits and start being able to establish what schools really want you. Oh yeah, because them offers don't mean shit, bro. Them offers don't mean shit. It's plenty of schools that offered Trav that just said they want them, but they didn't follow up. They weren't committable, which means you got to really dig into understanding who's communicating with you the most. Are they really offering you, or is it a committable offer or not? Let me tell you what a committable offer is. A committable offer is you're getting offered and you're being hounded and being pressed by the position coach and the head coach, and they are blowing you up. They talking to your head coach. They're trying to reach out to your parents when they can, and they're making it known that we need him. All right? If they fall down that list and stop reaching out to you, and then out of nowhere they start coming up to the school and saying, hey man, you're still our guy, they don't really want you like that. You'll get that letter to let you know if it was an official offer or not. But I want y'all to know a very, very funny story that happened with Trav that's not going to be in depth today, but I want you to know a lesson that we learn when it comes to committable offers. Despite him wanting or potentially going to a school that was in the runnings for him to go, before he could even commit and before he was going to make the announcement, they came back and told him that the offer is not committable. We're going to pause on our positions right now because we are looking at other, options and what have you. So that was a very humbling experience for Travis, because we had to learn that just because we got 50, 60 offers and you're getting guys coming at you left and right, how many of them are really going to stick? So, aside from the unofficials, the official visits that Trav took were with Auburn University, University of Georgia, University of Alabama, and University of Tennessee. A lot of kids take 5, 6, 7 visits. We decided to narrow those down based on how much interest Travis had based on their offense and how much he would be an impact, either immediately or, within the very near future. So that was kind of the real reason behind those 4. A few of them didn't make the cut, but, that's kind of where the dice rolled. In the cusp of, going to our official visits and making sure Trav was able to build relationships with these programs, we knew a decision was going to need to be made, right? And I always correlate this recruiting process and this visit stuff and official visit stuff like the dating pool. You got 4 successful, very well equipped potential women or men that you can date that you would like to be with. I know that's overkill, but I'm just being honest. Some official visits In some schools, you might narrow down to maybe 2, it may be 3. Hell, you already might know where you're going. But let's say you got 4 schools, right? The decisions of making that school be that school your son decides is subjective. You may want to go to a school based on this. He may want to go to a school based on that. It's all subjective. It's all based upon what and how you feel as a player. But also as a parent, you got to look at it from your lens and say, well, I like this school because they have this graduation rate. I like this school because you're able to major in something that is going to allow you to make X amount of dollars if you get hurt and you don't go to the NFL. I like this school because they win national championships. You see what the subjective reason behind that? So there's reasons behind it. But for Travis, I think the reason that he ended up going into deciding to go to Tennessee was, man, Georgia was on him hard. He from Georgia. He was on him hard. Auburn was on him hard. They have a very likable staff. Coach Davis is a great guy. Bama was a lifelong dream for Travis. He wanted to go to Bama because of his upbringing. All his family, majority of them were Bama fans. So that sentimental, expectation was, I want to go to Bama because that's my dream. Right? But Tennessee was on him, bruh. Tennessee was on him, and they had a 5-star quarterback. You know what I'm saying? They had an electric offense. Trav is a big receiver. Cedric Tillman and Dante Thornton, Jalen Hyatt. Those guys were kind of moving into the NFL spectrum, and it was impressive for Trav. But I really think, most importantly, I felt like he would be an immediate impact for them. Aside from having Nico, which was one of the, if not the top-rated quarterback coming out of 2023, we felt like it was a great opportunity for Trav. So the visit felt good, and when he went and when we got done with the visit, I said, "How you feeling, man?" Even though it was it was overwhelming for him. He was kind of like frustrated because he knew how he really would go. He was like, "Dad, I ain't never had so much fun, man. I had too much fun here. Everybody was like a family, man. It was like, it felt good." I said, "Well, that's your school, bro. That's your school. That's where you belong." And I think how you felt and how he felt, it ended up keying into making that decision. And that Tennessee ended up being where it was. So in the grand scheme of this, man, with this Daddyball show, this is one of the things that y'all got to understand about how we want to help educate, mentor, and provide, this type of leverage with y'all. Because we're in the middle. We're the parent, but we're connecting the dots between the camps, the training services, and then obviously that finish line during that chapter, and that's college, right? This is here to help. This is here to provide all of the details and insight for y'all to get to that point. There's so many more steps, so many more details I want to provide y'all. But in the midst of that, I wanted to give y'all a snippet of how that was really gathered, how that happened for Trav, before we go into a little more detail with how this college recruiting shit worked. Because it's get real. It's cute now. You get to see your baby play, but when he get an opportunity to go to a college or get an opportunity or a real offer that's committable, that's when the business start. A part of the, recruiting process is, the NIL piece. That's becoming probably more of a bigger conversation than anything. You know what I'm saying? So when we talk about being recruited, it's not just who's the coach. It's like how much money I'm gonna get. What is the NIL looking like? What's the collective? Some schools do it in a different way. Some schools don't have a general manager. Some schools have a collective resource that comes, through a curtain and like, hey, we'd like to meet with you at 4:00. Just go over some things. And some, just are ran by, this random person. You know what I'm saying? So it really varies, but it's very tricky when it comes to NIL because, You have to look at the research behind market value. How much of the value of a 4-star or 5-star kid is NIL for a 4-star wide receiver? And it varies. It ain't the NFL, but one school may be offering this, another school may be doubling that because they are valuing your son more and they may have a little more money in their pocket. So that's why it's a little tricky when you talk about NIL. But you got to have the right people in that conversation. It's not just about the money. It's about the opportunities that you have for incentives, right? We talk about, am I going to be able to have my family accommodated for trips? Like they're going to have hotels, or are they going to have, expenses covered for flights? Are we going to be able to have some type of Delta club rewards and shit like that, man? Like you got to be able to know that. And most people don't. But that's where you got to do your research. And like I said before, building relationships, understanding how the NIL landscape is so grand, which leads me to the other side of the dirty game of that. A lot of people are not who they claim they are. You got a lot of experts out here that claim they're NIL agents, not NFL agents, NIL agents. Yes, they have those financial advisors and so forth. So they're going to come at you in different angles. They're going to talk to you about shit that you don't know, so they can easily manipulate you and easily kind of be a wolf in sheep's clothes, if that makes sense. You feel me? So you got to be very up on game, and you got to have somebody from a legal standpoint to help you redline those type of conversations, bro. I'm telling you, because it's a lot of people out there now that are drooling, like I'm talking about, like wolves, to try to take advantage of your son, because they know if you sign on that dotted line, that basically legally binds them to your son when they even make it to the NFL. You didn't know that, did you? Read between the lines, bro. Ma'am, sir, because there are a lot of people out here who are claiming to be NIL advisors, NIL representatives, but they are agents who are pretending to be your agent, and they're going to take 10% of everything you earn for life. I could give you a number of examples, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to give y'all what y'all need to look out for. So that's how tricky this NIL shit get. Make sure you're talking directly to the school. I'll let y'all go, man, but at the end of the day, I want to make sure y'all know that everything that we're talking about here is going to be able to allow y'all to get to the next step. So coming up, we're going to have a few guests. We're going to have other parents who had other stories, who've experienced things that may be a little more of a testament than mine. That's what we're here for. We want your story to be known. We want to understand what your obstacles are. This your boy Smitty from the Daddyball Show. I hope y'all have a blessed day.